joining this session on classroom management. I team teach at Sango Elementary School, and we share a gym that is approximately 60 foot by 100 foot long. Our basic setup is we combine our groups and teach it as one large PE class. One of us acts as the lead teacher and the other as the assisting teacher. During the next class, our roles reverse, and we see our students every other day for about 40 minutes. My personal goal as a physical educator is to provide a safe and inviting classroom where all students can experience growth in their skill development. I want to equip each child with the basic skills so that when they see an activity at recess, in the neighborhood, at the park, or anywhere else, that they have the confidence to say, hey, I can try that because I learned it in PE. Now remember, I team teach and have 50 to 70 students in the gym at a time. Our classes are back to back and no time to switch equipment in between classes. Therefore, in order to accomplish this personal goal, I have to implement effective classroom management. During a recent faculty meeting, my principal shared the following quote from NBA Hall of Fame coach Pat Riley. Am I a control freak? No. Do I believe in organization? You bet. In discipline? In being on time and making sure everything is ready and right? Definitely. I don't control the players. I try to control the environment around the players so they can flourish. After reading this quote, I said, yes, that describes what it's like to teach quality physical education. By controlling the environment, you can create a space that allows the content to become the focus. When this occurs, you have the unique opportunity to teach for learning. Quality teaching calls us to balance what we teach, i.e. content, and how we teach, i.e. the classroom management. It is all designed to help students grow their skill set and confidence, all while minimizing off-task behavior. This session will explain what works for me in my gymnasium with my students. Please take it, tweak it, make it your own, and make it work for you. Today's session will explore what a typical class looks like, tips for staying organized, using assessment as a motivator, and how I select large group activities. I have done my best to include graphics for this presentation. Most of the information from this session comes from various articles I have previously shared on my blog, I Teach More Than Gym. I have also made a handout for today's session that will be available to you. What does a typical class look like? I am big on routines. They make my day go better, and I truly believe that the students participate better when they know what is coming next. I once attended a session at a conference where the presenter said he never sat his students down unless they were huffing and puffing. I have since adopted that methodology when designing the structure of our class. The class literally entered the gym skipping. From here, we move into the fitness section of our class. The purpose of starting the class in this manner is to allow for immediate movement, especially if that second class is late. This also gives me an opportunity to quickly talk to a teacher, receive a doctor's note, or help a student with something, all while the students are moving and socializing. If a student is running, then I need to redirect them. The next part of our class is the fitness section. I give the direction, all right, boys, step aside to walk, and girls, you can slow jog. The classes then complete about 4 to 5 minutes of 30-second interval walking and jogging. The group that is jogging goes around the track. The other group goes around the outside of the basketball boundary line as indicated by the yellow line. Now I go boys jogging while girls walking and girls walking while boys jogging because it's easier for me to identify a child that may be slacking. I've also found that most children love the opportunity to instantly move and jog. The format of these first few minutes allows each child to exercise as well as to socialize with their peers. When we do a quick cool down, and then we walk for about 30 seconds. All of the students then execute a crab walk or some other type of animal movement in order to engage their upper body muscles. After completing this portion, the students participate in a variety of instant fitness activities, a different one each day. Since I see the students every other day, we rotate through about 7 instant fitness activities. This rotation is frequent enough to be familiar, even though they only complete each one about twice a month. This may include student or teacher-led activities, partner activities, and/or large group instant activities. Each one has a consistent introduction and transition to help inform the students what they will be doing. Here's a couple of examples. Line leader fitness. After completing the crab walk, I simply state, all right, head to your paw prints and follow your leader. The students quickly transition to their assigned paw print and copy whatever exercise their line leader is performing. After about 30 seconds, I say, switch. The leader simply moves to the end of the line so that everyone can scoot up one paw print. When it's their turn to be the leader, they get to choose their favorite exercise to perform and have the others follow. This one allows a student to truly show their personality. Another one is the partner fitness or partner run. After completing the crab walk, I simply state, all right, find a partner and sit at an orange letter or blue number, and then I give a 10-second backwards countdown. These floor markings are just outside the basketball boundary line. I remind them when the music starts that partner number 1 will jog a lap, while partner number 2 completes their favorite exercise. When number 1 returns, they carefully switch places. At the beginning of the year, or with younger grades, I may prescribe which exercise they should complete. As the year progresses, I allow them to choose. Yes, the first time we complete each one of these different fitness activities, it takes longer. However, I need to be able to quickly review the expectations in 20 to 30 seconds, then hit the music and let them begin. And yes, kindergarten is different. It takes almost 9 weeks of slow jogging to get them to be able to seamlessly execute any of the above. At this point during class, the students should have been moving for the first 12 minutes of class. We then gather and sit near the stage to have a 2 to 3 minute health and fitness tip. I typically share a brief tip, then phrase it in the form of a question, and then allow the students to discuss it with their neighbor. After a minute or so, I call on 4 to 5 students to share their partner's response. The daily health tip is nothing fancy. It's a brief moment that we carved into our routine that allows us to share health, safety, or nutritional information to a captive audience. What kind of tips do we share? Most of the health tips are generic and can be shared at any time during the year. For example, keep a bowl of fruit on your kitchen table, counter, or in the fridge. Don't eat in front of the TV. Eat the skin on your potato, but not on your chicken. However, some of the health tips are calendar specific, like at the time change. Check the batteries in your smoke detector and have a fire drill at your house. In the fall, raking of leaves is good exercise, and jumping in them is fun. Most of the health tips can be turned into a question with one of these question stems. Why is it better to? What is your favorite? Why should you? Why do you think it is a good idea to? Or how can you? Each health tip could easily be turned into a full lesson. However, the goal is to make it short and sweet. It should be just long enough to help them remember, but not so long that it cuts into their movement time. Why is the health tip an essential part of our class? First, it provides a prescribed moment during every single class where I can share important information on healthy living. Our curriculum map does not specifically outline teaching these topics. I, however, find it to be a worthwhile venture. Second, it allows me to personally interact with the students. The process of having the students sit close to me for a health tip mimics a primary classroom where the teacher sits in a rocking chair with the students gathered around. Third, it allows me to hear a student's voice. Since we're an active class, I can go a long period of time without actually hearing what a student's voice sounds like. Fourth, it builds in open-ended questions and allows the students to generate verbal responses within every single lesson. When we are evaluated here in Tennessee, one of the 12 indicators our administrators are looking for focuses on questioning. The health tip guarantees that every single PE class has purposeful question built in. The teacher shares a health tip, asks a question, the students think, they share their responses with a partner, and then some have the opportunity to share out. Finally, it gives me 2 to 3 minutes every class where I can sit while the students are gathered right in front of me. Now, that might come across as lazy. However, as you know, when you're on your feet almost all day, then that 2 to 3 minutes allows your feet to say, ah. Interestingly, I receive more feedback from parents about the health fitness tip than I do about the skills and activities we are currently working on in class. At the conclusion of the health fitness tip, the focus of the day is then conveyed. We will spend the next 25 minutes on the daily lesson, which may be working through a skill progression or a large group activity, depending on what unit we are currently working on. I will talk more about skill progressions and large group activities a little later. At the conclusion of each lesson, we have to clean up our equipment, have closure, line up, and leave the gym. We have an established routine for this process that allows us to do this in 90 seconds or less on most days. Like any routine, it must be practiced. So we begin on the first day of school each year. Students are assigned paw prints, that is their floor markings or their assigned seat in class. We practice finding those spots as well as the lineup procedure. Thankfully, our school is not very transient. The high percentage of returning students makes this process fairly easy, with the exception of those kindergartners. They are a totally different story. With practice, they eventually learn the routine. Then I put the ball in their court. I remind them that they can have more movement time if they follow the set procedures. If they choose to talk, touch, or goof off, we then must stop class early to practice. This means they will lose movement time, but it's their choice. At the end of class, I ask the students to clean up, move to their paw prints. Since I use a microphone, I can usually give this command while they are still participating in the day's activity. I only stop the activity to give the cleanup instructions if needed. Most of the activities can smoothly transition from movement to cleanup with a simple voice command. The students and I have an agreement that they can have the choice to talk as they clean up and move to their paw prints after sitting. I'm sorry, that they can clean up and move to their paw prints. After sitting, they can turn and talk to their neighbor as long as one body part remains on their paw print. Their freedom to talk is paired with one expectation. As soon as I say quietly stand, they need to stand and cease talking. If they work within the established parameters, then they can socialize. However, if they choose not to comply with the expectation, their freedom to chat is then revoked. Here's our lineup routine. Quietly stand. At this point, all talking ceases. The students stand on their paw prints. Walk to your leaders. As they walk forward, I remind them if they choose to talk, touch, or goof off, they will go sit against the wall. Each class will end up with 4 lines of about 5 to 6 students. Leaders bring them to the door. The leader of line 1 from each class will begin to lead their line to the door. There are small marks on the floor to help guide them as they line up. The leaders of lines 2, 3, and 4 wait to follow the end of the previous line. All 3 classes do this simultaneously. As they walk to the door, I have just enough time to provide closure and give them a recap of the lesson. And it typically sounds something like this. Today, we did our walking and jogging. We participated in blank fitness activity. Your health tip was about this. And then we participated in or practiced this. Next time, we will work on this. When you get home, try to get outside and play. The students then end up by the exit door and they are ready to leave. This format helps vary the flow of the day. That is, each class participates in a 40 or so minute PE class. However, the first 15 minutes focus on fitness and the remaining 25 minutes focus on skill instruction and application. This pattern prevents the students from doing the same skill for the entire class and keeps the teacher from doing the same skill, such as dribbling, all day long. This routine works at my school. Using assessment as a motivator. How you manage skill practice is important. When teaching skills, we use the student progression model of instruction. Using this method, our plans are broken down into age-appropriate and sequential steps that build in complexity and ultimately lead to a culminating activity where the skills can be applied in a dynamic situation. For example, Foursquare. When teaching Foursquare, it has been my experience that most students cannot go straight to the culminating activity without proper skill development. The following is an example of a two-hand, underhand striking progression that our third grade students use. Note, each student is working with a partner, and each pair has their own space and playground ball. The first level, drop, hit, bounce, catch. This is the serve in Foursquare. The focus is on the initial hit that is dropped and then hit to a partner who is straight across. Drop, hit, 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 catch. The focus is now on the second and third hits that come from a partner who is straight across. So they are tracking the ball and then striking it back to their partner. The drop, hit, 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 hit. This is a continuous hit. The focus is on the second, third, and additional hits that come from a partner who is straight across. Multiple partners. The students are placed in groups of 4 on a Foursquare court. The focus is on receiving and striking a ball to and from different angles. There is no mention of rules or boundaries. Simply, how many hits or strikes in a row can your group get before it bounces twice? Modified Foursquare. The focus is now on the rules, boundaries, and strategical errors of the activity. Was it hit correctly? Did it hit a line? Did it bounce twice? As well as the basic rotation. I usually introduce 1 or 2 rules at a time so as to not bombard them. And finally, traditional foursquare. The focus is now on strategy. When students are engaged in skill practice, you have 2 methods to choose from when managing the progression. The first method is what I will refer to as teaching the skill. A teacher will explain the skill and describe how the students are to practice. You may hear them make a statement like this: practice striking the drop, hit, bounce, catch with your partner 10 times and then sit down. During this practice, the teacher monitors to make sure everyone is on task and may provide some corrective feedback. There are typically 1 or 2 groups who rush through just to be the first group finished and then complain that they have to wait. Those kids then begin to talk and disrupt others. Some groups will actually practice the skill correctly, while others are off task for each attempt. Finally, a couple of groups will be so slow, while all the others are sitting down waiting on them to finish. Once everyone has sat down, the teacher will demonstrate and move everyone to the next step in the progression, the drop, hit, 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 catch, and then repeat the process. This example utilizes a mass progression of students. I do not believe that this creates a healthy learning environment or true skill development. The second method is what I refer to as teaching the child, or a student progression. The teacher will bring the students close by to explain and demonstrate the drop, hit, bounce, catch, to include the common mistakes and critical elements. In order to prevent information overload, the teacher will let them find their partner and get started. This step is key, as some of the students need to actually practice the skill in order to understand. After a couple of minutes of practice, the teacher will stop them and quickly review the critical elements and common mistakes, and then state, if I see you under control and properly executing the drop, hit, bounce, catch, I will progress you to the drop, hit, 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 catch. The teacher may briefly demonstrate the drop, hit, 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 catch, just enough so that they will know what to do, and then let them continue their practice as they start assessing everyone. It's almost as if the teacher is challenging them. If you want to earn the next step, you have to show me that you can do this one. More likely than not, they will accept that challenge and work very hard to earn the next step. The difference between the 2 situations is clear. The first situation is a mass progression and has the teacher simply teaching a skill, allowing practice time, and managing behavior. The second situation, however, has the teacher managing student learning. The teacher has to move throughout the students, provide proximity control, and observe everyone while providing specific feedback. This allows the teacher to communicate specific strengths and weaknesses and makes the learning process personal. With this model of instruction, the assessment becomes the motivator. Wait, what did I just say? The assessment becomes the motivator? Yes. More importantly, the specific feedback helps to individualize the instruction. If a student has it, you tell them they do and you progress them to the next step. If they do not have it, you provide encouraging and corrective feedback coupled with additional practice time. This individual attention allows you to differentiate the instruction by allowing those who are ready to move on and be challenged by the next step To do so while providing those who need it, you provide remediation to those who need a little bit extra. Again, management is key. As you start to differentiate the instruction by progressing some pairs to the drop, hit, 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 catch, it can become confusing to try to quickly look back at a pair and tell whether they are practicing the drop, hit, bounce, catch or the drop, hit, 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 catch. In order to help keep me on track, I will tell the students that if they are doing step number 1 successfully, I will give them a thumbs up and simply place a half cone next to them. It amazes me how kindergartners and 5th graders alike react with excitement to receiving a simple thumbs up to move on to the next step. After I have made my way through the class, I can turn around and see who has progressed to the next step, the drop, hit, 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 catch, and who is still practicing the first step, the drop, hit, bounce, catch, by either the presence or the absence of a cone. I then know to focus on those pairs who do not have a cone to provide additional feedback to help them move to the next step. I have also observed that pairs are so motivated to keep moving along that they're not really paying attention to who does or does not have a cone. How I select large group activities. What are the large group activities that you cannot wait to teach? I mean the ones that get you giddy. You know the feeling. The same excitement you get when you inflate a brand new playground ball. These are the activities that you have to stop and remind yourself that you are the teacher because you get so involved in participating with the students. For me, it's an activity called Treasure Island. The handout will have a link for the free lesson plan. This is a high energy and invasion type of activity. It requires the students to work together, get their heart rate up, and have fun. My students love it. In fact, my son wanted to do it at one of his birthday parties. The idea for this activity came from a session I attended at the annual Share the Wealth PE conference. This particular session was led by faculty and students from the PE Teacher Education Program at Auburn University and focused on invasion activities. I saw something during that session and it created a spark. My brain started rolling and I eventually created this large group activity. This activity involves scooters. Now here's a management question for you. When do you get your scooters out? I do not get my scooters out until the last PE class in December. Up until that point, the scooters are stacked in the back of the equipment room. This withholding of equipment is intentional. On a day when the students are otherwise wound up and excited, it encourages them to stay on task if they want to use a scooter rather than sit in timeout. It also creates excitement at the halfway point of the year because now a new door of large group activities have been opened for the second semester that involves scooter. I love teaching large group activities or games. I think that they are a crucial part of a well-rounded physical education curriculum. Most of the time, I use them as a culminating activities at the end of a unit, as a break between units, or on days immediately preceding or following long weekends and breaks. When I am selecting or creating large group activities, I look for ones that in no particular order maximize participation and have minimal wait time, have no endpoint or prevent time from being wasted while resetting equipment, provide for smooth transitions when taking turns, changing positions, or alternating roles such as offense and defense, require the students to think, resulting in a higher level of student engagement. Call for the students to work with and help one another. Challenge the students to be better by allowing opportunities to both build on successes and learn from mistakes. More importantly, they quickly get another chance to try again. They allow students to engage in healthy competition. They provide an opportunity to apply skills they have recently acquired or review skills they have previously learned. And I look for activities that are fun and exciting, that get their heart rate up, have multiple rounds, contain minimal rules, and can easily be replicated during another class. I learned long ago that the best time to stop an activity is when the excitement is at its peak. That way, the students remember the activity is fun and exciting. On the other hand, if you let it go for too long, you risk letting the activity become boring along with an increase in off-task behaviors. As a result, I rarely do a large group activity for longer than 10 to 15 minutes. If I do an activity for longer than 10 to 15 minutes, I usually plan various levels within the same activity to kick it up a notch every 5 or so minutes. These levels allow me to add a challenge or slightly alter the activity in order to help maintain a high level of excitement. To me, changing the level is simply varying the task. For instance, level 1 of an activity may call for the students to roll an object on the ground, whereas level 2 may call for them to roll it backwards. Sometimes the levels can be stacked, and students can choose which level they wish to participate in. Levels, same equipment with a slightly different use. Another way I like to streamline instruction and stay organized is by using variations. Even though I'm using different equipment to teach a new activity, I pair it with the same organization of a previously taught activity. This turns the instruction into a review, as the students already know the concept, along with a quick explanation of the variation. To me, using a different variation simply changes the skill or equipment being used. For instance, one variation of an activity may call for the students to roll a playground ball at a target, whereas another variation may be different in a different unit, may call for the students to strike an object soccer style at the target. The skill changes, however, the basic activity stays the same. So variations, same activity with slightly different skill or equipment. Tips for staying organized. Another way I stay organized is providing the students time to socialize. When it is time to get equipment, clean up, or really most any transition, except for when we line up and exit, I let them talk. I have found that if I tell the students to walk quietly during the transition, then I am simply setting myself up for a huge headache. I also waste my energy as I try to monitor this unrealistic expectation. Instead, I let them talk and move quickly, but safely. Most transitions happen within a slow, backwards 10 count, which takes me about 15 to 20 seconds. The students know that when I get to 1, they should be seated and quiet. Organization also comes through holding the students accountable as they execute various routines. If the students fail to meet the expectations during a given routine, it should be immediately redone. If you do not stop and address the poor transition at that point, it will snowball into a greater problem. It will then become a poor habit that will throw off your overall organization on a daily basis. In our quest for organization, we sometimes tell the students too much information at one time and then wonder why the organization falls apart. When I'm introducing or reviewing an activity, I will tell the students the activity of the day, explain the transition and how they need to be organized. Let the students transition. Review, demonstrate the activity. Let the students get the necessary equipment and get started. Now note, if the activity requires a major rotation, I do not explain the rotation until it is time for the first one to occur. If I try to tell the students all of this above information before they ever transition, something will be forgotten, and I will end up wasting time as I work to straighten everything out. One major component of organization is planning for transitions. For instance, if I want to have 40 kindergarten students sitting in pairs, I may place 20 cones on the floor and direct them to sit with a partner at a cone. Whereas if I randomly put out too few, too many, or no cones at all, the students have trouble, and I end up wasting time helping them adjust. Therefore, I try to think through the following questions prior to each lesson. How will the students be organized during the instruction, demonstration, and/or activities? How many lines or areas will be needed? If lines are used, how many students will there be per line or area? How will the transitions be managed? Where should everything be placed? How one organizes their equipment also makes a difference. Since each class starts with 12 to 15 minutes of fitness activities, I rarely have equipment on the main floor when the students enter. Each morning, my colleague and I organize what is needed for the day and set it along the walls for quick access. When distributing playground balls, I can waste a lot of time and create a transitional train wreck if I let 40 students go to one bin. The younger students also cannot reach the bottom of the bin, so I have to stand there and hand the playground balls out. To ease this congestion and to free myself up to better monitor the transition, I like to place them into multiple tubs. I then spread them out along the wall. This allows the students to quickly get their own equipment and directs them to multiple areas of playground balls versus one single bin. I follow the same ideology when distributing most any equipment. Spread it out to make it easier to access. If the students are getting multiple pieces of equipment, I may ask the boys to get a paddle and then a ball, while the girls go and get a ball and then a paddle. If they are organized into pairs or groups, I may ask one student to get the pieces of equipment for their partner and/or group. Sometimes I set up just enough equipment to get the activity started and then finish setting the equipment up as they begin to participate. When collecting or distributing equipment, I encourage you to plan out the transitions. Most teachers think about the activity, and yes, that is important. However, planning for the transition is just as important. In fact, I have my student teachers actually write their transition plans out. Another management tool we use during our basketball unit is our slow motion buttons. We use slow motion buttons, that is, paper plates, to help keep the control in our 4th and 5th grade 3v3 paper plate basketball. In this 3v3 basketball, the defenders may move anywhere as long as their foot stays on the paper plate. The defenders must also stay one arm's length away from the person they are guarding. The slow motion button allows the defenders the freedom to move while keeping them under control. And I have found that the cheapest paper plates are the best. Also, I keep the offense on offense and defense on defense for about 2 minutes and then tell them to switch. This prevents time from being wasted with too many transitions. It also allows a team that made a mistake to immediately practice it again. One of the best classroom management tools that I have at my school is the gym floor. That's right. The floor plays a key role in each of my lessons and ultimately makes me a better teacher. When planning my lessons, I often ask myself the following question: what floor markings can I use to help transitions, grouping of students, and the activities go smoother? For many years, I used floor tape, lots of floor tape. But you know, the problem with floor tape is that eventually students like to pick and pull at it. Eventually, the tape comes up. You can use cones. However, they have a tendency to move. Somehow, they never remain in the same place where you set them down. If you can, talk with your administrator about painting additional floor markings. This is a task that requires a lot of time, planning, and painstaking detail. However, the fruits of your labor pay off in terms of better classroom management. At my school, we have a gym that is roughly 100 foot by 60 foot and is covered with 12-inch by 12-inch VCT floor tile. The only permanent markings on the floor are a basketball court, a volleyball court, and 6 foursquare courts, which are inlaid with 2-inch black tile. Every 4 to 6 years, our custodians strip all the wax off the gym floor. When this happens, the bare tile is exposed and ready to be painted. The actual painting process requires about a week of our time during the summer. However, it is well worth it for the next 4 to 6 years of classroom management. We want floor markings that will maximize student learning by helping with student movement during activities. We also need the markings to assist with the grouping of students, to ease transitions, to minimize setup so we don't have to put floor tape down, and to help utilize all of our space in a safe manner. The orange line. This divides the gym in half lengthwise. The yellow line. This divides the gym in half widthwise. Now, the existing half-court basketball line was black, but it really confused the younger students when we instructed them to stand on the outside black line. We meant the outside black boundary of the basketball court versus the half court. Therefore, we painted over the black half court line and made it yellow. Blue lines. These divide the gym into 3 team sport areas that we can use for ultimate anything, soccer, or hockey. Long jump rope stations. These consist of 2 purple hands that are 14 foot apart and a red heart in the middle. Each turner stands on a purple hand while the jumper stands on the red heart. We have 17 of these stations evenly spaced out. Paw prints. These spaces are in rows and columns. We have 140 of them painted on the floor. Each child is assigned one at the beginning of the year. These spots are used for individual skill practice, partner practice, and, as we talked about earlier, our end-of-class lineup routine. Every other row of paw prints has a black dot. These are individual jump rope spots. This provides for students to be safely spread out while they jump. All students stand on a paw print with a black dot and face the stage. These dots also assist with finding a partner. If every student sits on their assigned paw print, we simply ask those on a paw print with a black dot to face the stage, and those on paw prints without a black dot to face the bathroom. Each student should then be facing a partner. Foursquare courts. We painted an additional 14 courts, so we have a total of 20 Foursquare courts on the floor. We use them all the time for a variety of activities and organization. I love Foursquare courts and use them a lot. The purple circle. This is a 44-foot circle that we use when dancing and demonstrating some of our activities. Orange letters and blue numbers. These are evenly spaced around the perimeter of the basketball court. These are starting points for relay lines and many partner activities. I have had a few people tell me that the floor markings are quite overwhelming. At first, they may be. However, I only focus on the markings we need during that lesson, and I wholeheartedly believe the students do the same. I can attest that the students have functioned quite well over the last 20 plus years. All of the markings on the floor truly accomplish our goals. These markings facilitate student learning in every class I teach. I am a better teacher because of our gym floor. The whistle. Some folks frown on it. However, I find the whistle to be a highly effective stop signal since we have upwards of 60 to 75 kids in the gym at a time. I almost always have music playing, which along with the student voices and sounds from equipment can be quite loud. I only use the whistle as a stop signal, nothing else. A simple toot of the whistle is the stop signal. If the music is playing, I try to stop it simultaneously. When the whistle is heard, the expectation is for everyone to stop and drop. That is, they should stop whatever they're doing, sit down, hold their equipment, or set it on the floor, stop talking, and look at me. I expect this to be accomplished within 3 seconds. If it takes longer than 3 seconds, we immediately practice until we get it right. I pair this expectation with the following explanation. We only have 40 minutes together. The amount of movement you get is dependent on your choices and your behavior. The quicker you stop and drop equals the quicker I can talk. The quicker I get to talking, the better you listen equals the faster you can get back to moving. At the beginning of the year, we practice this, and this is one way we build mutual respect with the students. I remind them that we have a mutual goal of movement and that they play a major role in achieving that goal. The wall. If you goof off or are not meeting the expectations, you are directed to go and sit against the wall, count to 100, and get up. If it happens 2 to 3 times, then we have to start moving through the discipline plan. All of this classroom management helps me achieve my goal that I stated earlier of wanting to equip each child with the basic skills so that when they see an activity at recess, in the neighborhood, at the park, or anywhere else, that they have the confidence to say, hey, I can try that because I learned it in PE. Thank you very much for being a part of this. And now we're going to have some question and answering for any of you that have any questions about the activity. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for watching this session from EPEW 2020. We're saving the next few minutes for you to ask those final questions before we log off. If you have any questions afterwards, please reach out to the presenter or send a message to EPEW through our website.
Don't forget that we have more amazing sessions going on. Head over to our website, epew-cp.weebly.com, and look for the virtual EPEW 2020 tab.
You can also access the presentations on YouTube by typing in the hashtag EPEW 2020.
We'd like to thank the amazing EPEW committee for all their hard work over this past year. This event would not have been possible without their dedication, commitment, and volunteering their time to providing high-quality professional development.
Don't forget about our other events like our socials and share times. Links can be found on our website.
Remember our motto for EPEW, come to learn, leave as family. Thank you for joining our family today.